Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I'm here with the coach, John Brent.
And I'm here with vet, Mr. Ian Griffin. What's going on, man?
Man, I'm in my Arkansas tuxedo today because we're poor as heck because I'm paying too much for gas under the new president.
No, I know. I went to the plant farm earlier and spent at least a month's salary, it seems like, but it was $50 to fill up when normally it was 38 just a few weeks ago. So I'm not happy about it.
That's freaking crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't really understand it, but you know, to each his own. It's always funny with whoever's president. They get the thumbs up, they get the thumbs down, unless you're Democrat and you still blame the other one every time. So
that's a fact. So the other night on our live podcast, we had Alan Bailey, who's a top fan. We had Casey Luke, who's a top fan. We discussed how many questions would the president actually answer. And there was a whole bunch of other things we had talked about during the press conference. And this press conference lasted an hour and 2 minutes. He answered actually 10 questions, and he did not answer a single one from Fox, Newsmax, or anything like that. He answered from question-friendly people. Let's just say it like that. Coach, what do you think?
Well, question-friendly people, from what I understand, were questions that were already known because he was reading off a script. So how are you going to have a script ready if you don't know what's coming? Yeah, of course we know we're in a pandemic, but I'm hearing that we didn't get any pandemic answers. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to actually watch it in its entirety, but I did listen to, on Sirius Radio, I listened to Fox, CNN, MSNBC, and also the POTUS channel. And from what I understand, we didn't get any questions about COVID. We have a lot of questions that were answered with something that he was reading from some of it. And also the unity that we talked about in the beginning of the inauguration is not gone now.
Yeah, Coach. So, well, first of all, he did like a 2-minute intro where he talked about the COVID and how great he was and how bad the president was, but the previous president was, and how he's put on the Superman cape and came in and saved the day, and he's going to put out 200 million vaccines by the first 100 days, which is a lofty goal, to be quite frank with you. He can thank President Trump for making those 2 vaccines and having the third one in the chute ready to rock and roll, because he's making him look pretty dang decent in regards to that. Maybe he should send him a freaking box of chocolates or a box of cigars for being gracious like that. But what you talked about the reading part, all on foreign policy. So I'm going to state some obvious things, though, is his foreign policy stuff. When he hit that, when he talked about North Korea, you know, and he talked about China, he really read. And so a couple of things I'm going to hit on this is I've given a lot of speeches in my career in the military. As part of my function as a senior leader is what I had to do. I pride myself on that. I would write the speech, I would prepare the speech, I would memorize the speech, and I would have the speech in front of me, and I would recite the speech almost verbatim, except my hand going down because I knew where I was at, just in case I lost my place, that I could just refer down and speak back up real quick. I think that's a sign that you know what you're talking about. You've got comfortable with it and everything else. But on the foreign policy piece itself, Coach, let's be honest about this. We haven't had a Democrat president that understood foreign policy whatsoever in the slightest form since JFK. And what I'll say is, and I'm going to ask your thoughts on it, but the rest of the Democratic presidents that ever tried to execute foreign policy, the bottom line, they look like a preschooler attempting to do calculus for college. That's just my thoughts.
Well, one of the things with foreign policy, the difference I always see with the Republican and Democrats is this: it doesn't seem like that's the Democratic talking point, because that's not what's going to get them elected. What's going to get them elected when they talk about things is going to be civil rights issues, race issues, you know, money in your pocket, things like that. To a Republican, it always seems like that we're looking at things more as you know, a foreign issue as much as a domestic issue. We always hear about from the Democrats, oh, we need this globalization, this global world and the global economy. But when it comes down to, they don't understand what it means to have a foreign policy of dealing with Russia or dealing with China or dealing even now with Syria. They don't have a clue. It's just when it comes up. And one thing about Trump, he was a prick, but we weren't in wars. It looks like we're about to be heading towards more conflict because they don't know how to deal with foreign policy. I don't think that's taught at Cal State, Berkeley, and Harvard, Yale anymore. I don't know.
So, Coach, I'll say, you know, my bachelor's was in global business and public policy, you know, so, and I don't like to toot a Ben horn, but I do feel I'm pretty versed in the global peace in the world and how we relate to that. But I agree with you. I don't think it's taught there, and you hit the nail on the head about let's tend to racial issues, because that propagates a lot of people to follow us if we act like and I'm going to say it, if we act like we're accommodating that in things of that nature. And so we'll garner a big following, and we'll garner the press by doing that. And you're right. The President Trump, he was a prick about it. But, you know, when they asked the question, you know, when are you going to pull troops out of Afghanistan? Because May 20th is the deadline. Are you going to make the May 20th? Well, no, we're not going to make the May 20th deadline. Well, when? We will pull them all out. But when it's safe, and that's the talking point, that when somebody's in doubt, they don't know when it's safe. You know what? Line them up, pull some freaking security over the crap, pull them all out, and call it a day. We've done it for 20 years, and we ain't got the objective that you wanted to have achieved in 20 years. It's probably time to move on. Or with foreign policy, the three places that we've executed foreign policy extremely well for a long duration time is Japan, South Korea, and Germany. All three of them still have troops there after 60 years. So if we want to put troops there for 60 years in Afghanistan, say it, and let's do it. If not, get their butts out. That's just my thoughts, Coach.
Oh, well, you're right. I mean, most of the talking points you'll hear when it comes up with any foreign policy, an election year, I don't care if it's for the Senate, the House, or if it's for the presidency, Democrats always say, we don't want to be in war. We need to pull our troops out. We need to bring our troops home. We do all these things. Then when they're actually in power to do it, they don't do it, because they don't understand, except for what I have to say to get elected. You don't understand what it means to actually protect your country from abroad. And that's what you have to do, especially in the globalization that we live in now, where, you know, we have terrorist issues. We also have foreign buildups in other countries. You have to be able to be involved. Now, if that means sending more troops to win a war or sending more troops to protect American interests, you got to do it. But don't talk like you're never going to do it. And then when you're there, well, I don't know. Well, yeah, you knew before. You just want to tell us the truth because you didn't. That's not goes to your voting base, because your voting base is wimps. Let's just never fight any war. But in reality, it's not fighting a war. It's protecting America.
So you brought up two great points, and we're going to go in some more things, but you got two things I want to hit the nail on the head. First of all, I say, let's just admit what we all know. Democrats do not know how to run foreign policy. Let's just call it a day. A baby that's 4 months old does not have a verse knowledge of a certain language. It's a baby language. Democrats are in the same boat. They have no scholastic ability to handle foreign policy. That's one. And two, let's call them the party that they are. You said it. The party that'll say whatever the hell I have to say to make you feel good long enough to get through the voting booth, and then I'm going to turn my back on you. Just take a look at the border. Just take a look at the filibuster. Just take a look at anything that you want to look at, you know. I mean, anything you want to pull back, you can honestly sit there and say, well, the Democrats told me this before we voted, but then they changed their mind after they voted. So I just want to hit that in. So let's call them what they are. The party that will say whatever they got to say. Hillary proved that, you know. Who's your favorite singer? Well, hold on. Who's the most popular singer right now for the young ladies? That's who my favorite singer is. You know, whatever I got to say. So I want to talk about the filibuster a little bit, because he hit on it. And, you know, and he kind of threatened a little bit and said, you know, oh, well, how it was in my time. And I want to take a little bit away from his conference, though, not just has he hit on it recently, but because Joe Manchin and Christian Sinema, the two Democrats that have a backbone whatsoever and think things through, they are receiving pressure. So they had to throw out the filibusters racist. So I figure if we're going to talk about it and being racist, let's call who what is. And, you know, I watched the Greg Gutfeld show, and he said, well, let's call the Democrats what they are. They're racist. They're the party that wanted slavery. They're the party that wanted to keep it. They were a party that wanted to suppress everybody. So let's just call the Democrats what it is. But if we look at the filibuster, 2019, 2020, the Senate had 328 filibusters. They call them cloture motions. Filibusters in there. Who was in charge? Oh, the Republicans had the majority. So who was filibustering? The Democrats, 328 times. So you tell me through 19 and 20 that it wasn't racist, but now it's racist because you're not in charge. And then if you start looking at all the times, really, all the way from 2015 when the Republicans had the Senate majority, 2015-16 it was 128 times, 2017-18 it was 201, and now it's 328 last year. The Republicans, all the times it's been in the hundreds, except one year it was 252 when the Democrats were in charge. And then before 2005 and 6, it was down in the 60s and 50s and things of that nature. So you're griping about the filibuster. This is the one thing that I got about the filibuster. When the founding fathers designed our laws, they designed the laws so it wouldn't be easy to pass a law. That it took a lot to pass a law, so it was well thought out, not a knee-jerk reaction, not a spontaneous moment, not a movement with the times because it's a fad. And now we want to get rid of it because I'm in charge, and I realize that my preach for unity has not worked too well because I have not exercised as the president, and I'm going to need that unity now to get some shit done, and I pissed all over unity, so I'm going to have to find another way. What do you think, Coach?
Well, the unity, I try not to curse much, but the unity crap is bullshit. And that's just straight exactly what it is. Because when you tell that, that you want unity after all these 4 years of divisiveness that, really started under the Obama administration and it just continued through the Trump administration, just depending on who was on top, who was on bottom. Then you get this guy telling us on January the 20th that we're going to have unity. And then yesterday, when they asked him a question, who knows, you definitely know this wasn't written down, but he says, even if we have a Republican Party going forward, now, first and foremost, what are you going to do? Legislate that there can't be a Republican Party? You're going to executive order it? What are you going to do? It wouldn't surprise me if you sign something tomorrow saying, no more Republican Party because it's racist. The identity politics that's been played in the last 5 or 6 years from the left is shameful. It's not, they're never going to be ashamed. It's called shameful because anything and everything that is racist if you disagree with anything they say. I just listened to something yesterday on a podcast. I actually had to rewind it to make sure, and I'm going to get the lady's name because I'd like to talk about this, but she says now that if you pay taxes, if you're both married, a black couple and a white couple, and they both are married, make the same amount of money, that the black person gets more taxes and the tax system is racist now. I was blown away. I had to rewind it because if two people make the same amount, live in the same city, we're now saying that white people will get taxed less. When did this? I mean, everything's racist, so it doesn't even matter. What Joe does, or excuse me, President Biden does, it was hard for me to say that, is whatever his base needs, if it's a leftist agenda, if it's, whatever he needs, he's going to say it because he does not know how to lead. He has 47 years of practice and he's still doing the same thing he's always done. Whatever will get me the vote or whatever will get me the thumbs up. That's what he is.
Yeah, Coach. So I saw a lot of blaming on the previous president. This is the reason why we're doing this. And it got into the transparency question, in which, I've written a little bit about it, and there's going to be some more next week about it coming out, I think. And but the transparency question. One of the reporters said, hey, we had a migrant child, 9 years old, move all the way from Guatemala, walked all the way up to the border. And they had a phone number. They called the mother, But when are you going to let the press come in so we can start telling those stories? And so the American public can see that. And his answer was, we're not ready for that yet. We got to get pretty much I got to clean house down there and get it how I want. We got to tidy it all up, make it look nice for you. Well, I'm going to tell you that right there is called propaganda, doing that. And that I do not like to use. I'll use the communist word, but I do not like to use the N word as in Nazi words. But Joseph Goebbels would be a proud man right now of the Biden administration. I'll be straight honest with you on it. But what I'll say on this transparency thing, let me just ask you this, Coach. If Donald J. Trump would have done the same thing, would we not be having his third impeachment now? I'm just asking.
What I don't understand is why we haven't had an impeachment articles filed. Because, to be honest with you, if we're going to impeach someone for a Russian hoax that never happened, we're going to against someone for inciting an insurrection, which didn't happen. You can say what you want to about it. What he did was wrong. He shouldn't have called those people there. Those people that stormed the Capitol are criminals, but he didn't say go to the Capitol and kill somebody. Are you telling me that we should not, if the Republicans did what the Democrats did, we should already be talking about impeachment? Which from day one of Donald Trump's presidency, we're going to have him impeached. They should already be drawing him up. The difference of it is the Republicans at least have the constitutionality of, I would just want to say, of some honor of constitutionality to go, hey, not everything should be thrown up as politics and or impeachment, but what things could just be called is wrong. And if you call somebody wrong nowadays, you're going to be called, offensive or hatred or whatever, even racist. But we got to continue to do that. I refuse to be called racist, and I refuse to be called offensive when I give my opinion. I don't care what people think. And that's what Republicans have to stay focused on is, look, call it what it is. If it's wrong, call it wrong. And if you're called out, say, no, I'm not racist. You're racist for even bringing it up. I'm just telling you what's wrong. It's wrong. And that's what we have to continue to do. We've got to put our big pants on at all times and say, you know what? I'm not going to get into your identity politics. We're going to play rights and wrongs. So,
Coach, all I will say, though, is, this is a straight up First Amendment violation. I mean, at the end of the day, this is huge with freedom of the press. And in my piece that comes out next Friday, I even write, Voltaire would roll over in his grave and start passing out pamphlets along the freaking border for freedom of the press over this, because this is ridiculous, to be quite honest. I've never seen where we suppress the press. I've been in the military where if something happens on post, you have to request a Freedom of Information Act to be able to garner some information. And there's some reasons behind that, because some of them may constitute some things that are secret, okay, at the end of the day. And when you start talking national defense and start talking troop size and things of that nature, not all that needs to be weighed out there on the front page of every newspaper. But this is our border. And I'm quite sure some Democrat will come in and say, well, the vet, we can't let the size of the border crossing facility be known. Okay, I got that. But we can sure tell how many people are coming up through there, and which all that's public knowledge anyhow. My deal is we're seeing pictures now of what we threw a fit over with President Trump about kids in cages and things of that nature. And it is just the same thing. But now it's glossed over because our man's in office, and it's not the other way around. And that's the whole deal, kind of back with the softball question.
Well, you're talking about, and we're going to discuss something coming up next week. We got some people coming on. We're going to talk about this, and I'm going to keep that as a secret as of right now. But one of the things that we're going to talk about, and not get into it big time, is the freedom of the press. I asked my students this week, what if we didn't have the First Amendment in religion and speech and the press? And we got a long discussion about the press. A lot of my students were saying, it seems like that's what's going on now. The press doesn't report, what's going on. Unless it's something that's going to push the agenda of the candidate or the party that they like. I mean, what kind of freedom is that? I mean, if you're not going to tell us what's going on, then why tell us anything? Just say what you are. You're Dr. freaking Phil, or you're some kind of show that's just for your party. Why don't we just call, MSNBC, the Democrat Party cable company? Let's just do it. Let's just call it what it is.
It's a state-run press. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep, it's a state-run press. It's what it is. The only difference about the state-run press currently right now is with the big three, is that we haven't found money coming from the government to them or from a political party. Rest assured, I'm quite sure you can find some money if you really dig. But money's been elusive. I mean, we got some people who are very good about hiding money. You just ask that HRC person about all that. But anyway, so one of the other things, Coach, he talked about was he's provided unity. He's had the Republican majority, and that's what he needs. He doesn't care about unity with the legislators. He cares about the fact that the Republican majority voted for him, which Nowhere did the Republican majority voted for him. He had a few Republicans vote for him, and he's steadily losing that. And everyone I've talked to that said they voted for him goes, why did somebody not slap me when I was doing this? I mean, I don't know what to say. You saw it coming. So anyway.
Well, one of the things that I've tried to do, Yvette, is I've always tried to listen to both sides of the news and the press. And one of the things that just absolutely blows me away is whenever they take a vote on anything now and say let's just say it's in the Senate and it's 50-50, and one or two Republicans will vote for something with the Democrats, they call it a partisan vote or a partisan bill. It's not partisan. I mean, if you've got 48 people on one party saying, no, we're not going to do it, and two guys just switch, they somehow make it sound, well, now Joe Biden is bringing people together and we have this partisan vote. This is more propaganda. I mean, if you want a partisan vote, that's like when we used to have Clarence Thomas or people that were actually going to be in a Supreme Court, and they voted 96-4, or it was a 98-2, or even an 85-15. Come on, when you got a 51-49, you say, well, we had partisan vote on the bill. No, you didn't. I'm tired of hearing about that. It's not partisan. It's total politics. Even with the Republicans, which I didn't think was a good thing. The other day said that, they couldn't even get anybody to vote for, what was it, the officer getting a medal? What is that about? You got to tell me something about that.
Coach, I don't know on that right there. I don't know. I didn't watch that. I do apologize. But on the bipartisan voting, there's some things is that I will say that the Democrat congressman from down at the border in Texas, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Man, my hat's off to you, because you wasn't afraid to sit there and go against your party and go against the media and tell it like it was. I'll tell you another one is a Democrat senator from Arizona, Kristen Sinema. I have heard mayors talk about her in Arizona, that she has been there doing things that the government will not do. And she's just sitting there just finding resources and finding them help. And my hat's off to Kristen Sinema. You know what? I think she's the shiny star in that party, to be quite frank with you. And she votes for her constituents. She doesn't vote for party lines. And I like the fact that she's not a puppet to Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer. She votes for her conscience, which I wish everybody would, to be honest. And it's not because she agrees with me on some things and disagrees. I just think that shows class in that. We might be off on some things, but I think this border has brought out some really good people in there, and it's brought out a lot of bad people. If you notice, there were some Democratic congressional leaders and senators went down, and there were some Republican ones. The Democrat ones went to the facilities that were staged and put up nice and neat. The Republican ones went and saw the real deal. And dude, have you seen some of those photos that come out of there from I think it was, I might be wrong, but I think it was Tullis and Cruz and all those other things. I mean, I'm just saying this is, I don't see them being photoshopped or faked or any of that other stuff. I see them being real time.
Yeah, I've seen them, and to me, it's just this. There's no different than the photos I saw under Obama, that I saw under Trump. There's no different than now. The difference might be there's more people now because more people crossed in March than they did in February, and more than February than in January. But the facilities look the same. You had people absolutely on the left that are friends of mine on Facebook losing their mind when those came out. AOC went down and cried a couple years ago, losing their mind. It's inhumane. The Republican Party is a party of death to these little kids. And the same thing going on now. It is crickets. And I'm talking about when it's crickets with duct tape over their mouth crickets. I mean, are you kidding me? It's the exact same thing. And if anything, it's worse. But no, we're not going to get the truth from them, and it's sad because we have a chance to, if the 4 years is so divisive and you taking the country back and you want us to bring us back this beautiful utopian fairy tale that you were telling us for the last year, then take us there. But what you're doing is you're just changing the name and acting the same.
I agree, Coach. And so I'll say we watched the Biden press conference at 65 days, finally got one. He finally came out, talked for an hour and 2 minutes, and it was a little timely because when he bolted off, I even wrote down his last comments. It was hilarious when I heard it. I was like, what? He was like, that's it, folks. Oh, Folks, I'm gone. That's what he said. I'm gone. And I think he had to have a potty break, to be quite honest with you. I don't know. I'm 51. I had to have potty breaks every now and then. So he had to have his potty break right then because he's like, folks, I'm gone. See you later. Did it. Check the block. Call it a day. I guess I'm still your president. You know, you like me. Top deal. And then he moved on. And so I guess the next question, and I've heard him already talk, we'll have one probably by around Memorial Day, most likely, or June. You know, he appointed, of course, the vice president to lead the charge down there because she really knows what she is doing, I believe. You know, I don't. And then there is one thing there on the strategic side, though, is he kept on blaming President Trump. But the bottom line, if he wouldn't open his mouth and made backdoor promises like Democrats do for elections, this flock wouldn't have came. And every one of them down there said, we came because you said so. Every one of them has said that we came because you have said so. You said that you would take care of us. So my deal is he put an undue burden. And this is how Democrats do not think foreign policy. These people came from 39 different countries, pipelining through the country of Mexico. How do you do that to a friend who is our ally, who is sitting on our southern border and go, hey, we're just going to let them trawl up through your freaking area to get to us, dude, instead of, you know, some other way? Because that's taking a dump on your friends is what that's doing. I don't know what you think on that, Coach, but that's my feelings on it.
Well, the last thing I want to say about the Biden press conference is this. We had to wait for the longest we have in, 100 years to hear a press conference. I don't know the exact time. It's been a long time, 60-something days. And if you have 60-something days to prepare for something, my God, give us something. And you're up there looking like you have to read off a piece of paper because you're not smart enough to answer any questions that anybody throws at you because you don't know what they are, so you make sure you know what they are. A press conference is this. You read a statement, I'll take questions. Whatever they come from, you take the questions, you do the best you can. If you don't have the answers, you tell them you'll get back with them, just like a press secretary does. But you got this jackass up there reading off of a piece of paper, making us look like dumb butts, like we don't know. And the Democrats Party, oh, he's just so good. He's so Joe. No, what he is, he's so dumb. And he's not smart enough to be able to do this on his own. So, Coach, we got to wrap this up or I'm going to have to curse this guy.
Yep, it's time to go. So from the coach, whoa. Before we do that, tune in to us Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. We got Derek Douglas on there, and we got Dwayne Morris on there. We got some good topics we want to talk to you about. Watch us live. But from the coach,
and to the vet.
Stay tuned.